Hello everyone! Thank you very much for clicking on this video. My name is Truland Rockwood. I'm starting a new series of movie reviews, True Reviews. Super excited to get this started. The first movie I'm going to be doing today is Rogue One, A Star Wars Story. Just saw it last night, so a little while longer after it came out than I was wanting to, but I'm excited to talk about it with you guys and let you know what I thought of it. So when talking about Rogue One, there's some interesting questions because you have to first think about whether or not is Rogue One a good movie, and also is it a good Star Wars movie? For me, I'd say yes. I did really enjoy Rogue One. I had a lot of fun with it. I want to talk about some of the things I really liked and some of the things I didn't really care for in Rogue One, and some things that I'd like to see next as we progress further on in the Star Wars saga. I know that a lot of my friends and family don't necessarily care as much about Star Wars as I do. I'm a huge Star Wars fan. As you can see, I've got a lot of stuff up on my wall here. I'm a big fan of Star Wars, and it's something that's been a part of my life for many years, and I'm really excited to now be able to talk about it with you guys in detail. So first off, some of the pros with Star Wars Rogue One. I really liked the soundtrack. I had a really hard time remembering that at times it wasn't done by John Williams, which is saying a lot because, of course, John Williams has scored all 7 Star Wars movies so far, and so it was really interesting to see. I was really curious to see if the soundtrack would hold up, and I'd say it does. I will say I would have liked some of the familiar melodies to have been more prevalent in the movie. There are a number of scenes where I felt like some previous compositions that were done by John Williams would have done really well to enhance the scene. But other than that, I really liked it. The cinematography was absolutely beautiful. This movie has a really great sense of scale. The Star Destroyers coming in from the Empire and the Death Star itself are just massive. They look so big. They look really imposing, and as seeing things from the Rebel side was really interesting because you got this really great sense of scale that I thought was done really well in the original trilogy, and not so much in the prequel trilogy, but was also done again very well in The Force Awakens that we saw last year. As far as acting goes, there were 2 particular standouts that I really enjoyed. The first was Donnie Yen. He was one of the main characters in the Rogue One crew. He plays this blind, Force-sensitive, but not a Jedi character who was just awesome. His fighting skills were incredible, and the scenes with him fighting were really well done. But just as a character, just as an actor, he did extremely well. Also, Alan Tudyk, who has been doing a number of motion capture roles recently, was brilliant as K2SO, the Imperial droid who has been reprogrammed to work for the Rebels. He did really well with that. He was funny, he was charismatic, and playing a droid can't be easy, but he made it work really well. Directing, Gareth Edwards, the director, who had just gotten off of the success of Godzilla last year, which I have not seen, but I've heard did pretty well. He did wonderfully in this movie. I think the street skirmish on the planet Jedha was done really well. I was impressed with how real the battle felt. It was really cool to see a lot of war finally in a Star Wars movie. I didn't feel like we've seen a lot of real wars going on, or at least ones that felt real. In Episode 3, we had a lot of battles going on, but it was all CG, and you could tell. I also really liked the closing third act, the battle on the planet Scarif, which was a new planet we had never seen before. It was a tropical planet. The battle scenes on that planet were very impressive. Again, going back to that idea of scale, seeing those giant Imperial walkers, the AT-ATs, in this they were slightly different than the versions we've seen in previous movies, but it was really cool seeing them try to take down those Imperial walkers from the ground rather than using like the snow speeders that they do on Hoth and The Empire Strikes Back. And of course, in a movie like this, a big budget movie, there's going to be plenty of CG. I felt like some of the computer graphics were on point. At times I couldn't tell what was computer graphic and what wasn't. That was really great. Particularly the models. I don't know if they used miniatures or not for a lot of their models, but if they did, or if they used CG, I couldn't tell the difference. So that was great. And especially I was watching some of the prequels earlier this year, and the CG in that just does not hold up, and so it was really great to not even notice what was CG and what wasn't many times throughout the film. And in closing, we knew Darth Vader was going to be in this movie because he was in the promotionals, he was in the trailers and things. He is only in about 4 to 5 minutes of the film, but those 4 to 5 minutes are incredible. I loved the Darth Vader sequences. The one at the end particularly was done so well. They brought James Earl Jones back to do the voice of Darth Vader, which he hadn't done since episode 3 about 10 years ago. And it was awesome. Super, super great. Loved seeing that amazing character. One of the greatest villains of all time. It was great seeing him on screen again. My biggest issue with Rogue One was the pacing. The first two acts of this movie are extremely slow and are really kind of jumbled. What's really interesting is there was a lot of publicity covering the fact that Rogue One had a lot of reshoots. A lot of people think of reshoots as being a bad thing, that if a movie is doing some reshoots, then that must mean there were some problems. That's not necessarily the case. But what is interesting is that the trailers for Rogue One had a lot of material that was not in the final edit of the movie. And what is interesting about that is it seems that the third act was significantly different than what had been originally shot, and that they went back in reshoots and changed a lot of things in the ending. Now, that wasn't very noticeable to me. I didn't find that the third act was jumbled at all. I felt that the third act was done really well, and I really liked the way that it tied right into Episode 4, A New Hope. I really liked that connection there. But what was a problem for me was the first 2/3, as I felt like that was where the pacing issue was. They're trying to establish all these different characters and bring them all together and kind of bring them into this ragtag team. And I felt like there wasn't enough development on a lot of the characters, or a number of characters I didn't really care about because there was really no character arc for them. What's my opinion overall? Overall, I really did enjoy Rogue One. I thought it was a great entry into the new Star Wars saga. I'm really excited for them to do these one-offs. I hope they do more of them. I like the idea of giving different directors the opportunity to just kind of dig their hands and play around in the sandbox that is the Star Wars universe. I like the idea of this not having any sequels. I like the idea of just having sort of one-off shoots. They do that in comic books all the time. Comic books constantly have one-off stories where different artists or a different writer will take an interpretation of a comic book character and do their own kind of story with it. And I think it'd be great to have different directors be doing that in the Star Wars universe, and to see some stories that don't really revolve around the Skywalker family. I think that is there's a lot to do in that area, and I'd like to see more of it. So overall, I give Rogue One, A Star Wars Story, an 8 out of 10. So thank you guys so much for watching. Like I said, I'd like to be doing more of these. I think my next video review will be Assassin's Creed. Haven't seen it yet. I'm a big Assassin's Creed fan, and so I'm really looking forward to seeing that and to talking with you guys about that, both as a fan and, of course, as a critic. So thank you very much, you guys. Be sure to follow me here on YouTube. You can also follow me on Instagram and Facebook. True Reviews is my handle. Instagram is TrueReviews32. So give me a follow so you can stay up to date on my movie reviews, and thank you so much.